After One News, property climbers risk everything for a nest egg. Macbeth takes its legendary power struggle to a whole new setting. And after Front Seat, we begin tracing the 150-year history of reporters at war on One.
Tonight, a tearful exodus from the Solomons. Hundreds of Chinese decide the riot-torn islands are too dangerous to live in. Out of control again, a high-speed crash injures a photographer as a driver reflects on his spectacular near-miss. Moves to nail the shonky builders. The industry decides it's had enough of leaky homes and unsafe sites. And the secret diary of a legendary Kiwi writer. The Chance Discovery casting new light on Janet Frame. Also, former Army cadets demand compensation for bullying and the incredible rate rises hurting East Coast Maori. But first tonight, hundreds of Chinese are fleeing the Solomon Islands amid fears of more ethnic violence. They've been targeted over the election of the country's controversial new Prime Minister. And despite massive security, police are worried there could be more trouble when Parliament sits tomorrow.
This is Honiara's version of ethnic cleansing. These people are preparing to flee the country after watching their homes and businesses destroyed by Solomon Islanders. Emotions are high as these families decide to evacuate on 2 planes organised by the Chinese government. Some fear children may have lost their lives in the fires.
Yeah, some news has said maybe about 1, 2 maybe young kids died, I don't know.
Police say there have been no reports of any missing people, but this is a community still in deep shock. New Zealander Anne Thomas has taught many of the Chinese children caught up in the violence.
One I tried to talk to and he was just nothing coming out. He's just sitting up, sleeping. Others have been a bit more chatty.
The Chinese community was targeted by people who believe they bankrolled MPs voting for the country's new controversial Prime Minister. Hundreds of international military and police are on high alert as Parliament meets tomorrow for the first time since the violence.
We're putting in place comprehensive contingency plans and procedures to manage the opening of Parliament on Monday. Our strong and sincere hope is that that will pass off without incident.
Security's been tightened around the capital, particularly at night when New Zealand troops help enforce a curfew. This New Zealand patrol's checking out potential trouble spots and they've just seen a fire in the valley below. 18 people were arrested overnight, including a member of Parliament for breaching curfew.
He's currently in custody. He's broken the curfew, so he can be held in custody for 7 days.
The MP's absence could affect the vote of no confidence against Prime Minister Snyder-Rini on Wednesday, an expected close vote. But these people won't be here to see that. They'll be trying to pick up their shattered lives in the safety of another country. Barbara Drever, One News, Honiara.
And more New Zealand troops have left for the Solomons to help out. More than 50 soldiers flew out of Christchurch this afternoon on 2 Air Force Hercules loaded with military equipment and vehicles.
The situation at the moment is calm, but it's a very volatile situation and it could change at a moment's notice.
Today's deployment brings the number of Kiwi troops in the Solomons to 125. They'll provide crucial security in Honiara, guarding the prison, Parliament buildings and parts of the central city. One man's been injured and V8 supercar racing was delayed at Pukekohe after the second serious crash in 2 days. Yesterday, spectators were almost hit by a car that flew over a fence. A photographer was not so lucky today when a car smashed into the safety barrier.
There's the heavy impact made by John Bow's car with the outside wall at turn 1.
One photographer flees for his life, but Brisbane freelancer Scott Wensley was too busy capturing the action.
A whole lot of smoke came out of his wheels and we sort of thought he's not going to turn and tried to run out of the way, and unfortunately the other photographer wasn't quite as quick as I was.
It was very quick, but everything in motorsport is very quick.
Scott Wensley was carried away, his leg shattered by the safety barrier that came flying at him. He's expected to be in Middlemore Hospital for several days. The photographer standing next to him was left shaken.
Oh, yeah, all right. Bit of a rush. You can't pay for those ones.
Motorsport New Zealand's denying speculation the snappers were standing in the wrong place. It's now launched its second investigation in as many days.
This is a huge accident at Pukekohe.
Yesterday, Dean Fulford's Porsche flew over the safety fence, coming within an inch of dozens of spectators.
And seeing the actual car on the steps, at that point I thought, you know, how on earth did I get here?
Here is the replay. This is frightening.
I know it's horrible when you see an event like that the first thing you think is this person okay, which I tried to do a little bit of a wave to everyone.
Despite a broken finger and extensive bruising, he's remarkably perky.
The roll cage did its job, basically that was the cocoon that saved me.
And today those safety barriers prove their worth again. The only race happening now is a race against the clock to get this fence fixed within the next 40 minutes. With just a few minutes to spare, the action was back on track. Fans forgiving of the delay.
Pretty awesome. It's good to be here.
Can't be helped. Just got to go with it.
Knowing this and this adds the edge to the racing in Puke. Jacobina Plummer, One News.
And Tony will have more on an action-packed day at Pukekohe later in sport. 4 people have been killed in a bad night on the roads in the North Island. At Tangimoana near Palmerston North, 1 person died in a head-on crash that led to a 4-car pile-up. In the Kaimai Ranges, 2 people were killed instantly when their car slid under a truck and trailer unit. And at Kaikohe, a man died after a collision with a truck trapped him in his ute. The driver of this car is in a serious condition in Wellington Hospital. The 28-year-old hit a bus stop in the early hours. In breaking news, police, dive boats and a rescue helicopter are searching for a missing diver off Wellington's south coast. 2 other divers have been found safe, but so far there is no sign of their companion. The building industry is cleaning up its act with a new licensing scheme starting next year. Those promoting it say it'll get rid of the cowboys and ensure jobs are done right the first time.
With leaky homes and a third of all residential building sites in Auckland unsafe, the industry wants the cowboys out.
It's going to take about 5 years to get it fully in place, but yes, you'll slowly see the people who shouldn't be in the industry exiting out of it.
At the moment, anyone can put on a tool belt and call themselves a builder, but that's about to change. Licensing starts next year and initially it'll be voluntary, but it'll gradually get tougher until 2011 when it'll be mandatory to use a licensed builder if you want to put up a house or just about any building other than a shed.
You know, as a homeowner, if you get a builder, you'll get a good one, and they'll do the job and they will build your house correctly and it will last.
Builders have to reach certain standards to become licensed, a move welcomed by the industry.
It's certainly going to bring in more accountability into the industry, which is good.
Those fixing up the mess left by the leaky homes debacle say it's long overdue, but not the whole answer.
It's a step in the right direction as long as there's sufficient training for those who are carrying out the works, the builders, and also the people who are charged with monitoring it.
The cost is expected to be passed on to consumers, but one man paying out $60,000 in repairs says a few $100s for licensing won't matter.
The cost of licensing must surely be considerably less than the cost of repairing places such as ours.
DIY enthusiasts can still tackle smaller jobs at home. Vicky Wilkinson-Baker, One News.
Huge rate rises on the East Coast have some Maori land title holders feeling like they're caught in the middle. The value of their coastal property may have gone up dramatically, but unlike freehold owners, they can't easily sell the land or get loans to develop it.
It's a piece of paradise with $1 million view, and now a price tag to match. Until 9 months ago, Alatikani's family land in Tatapori was valued at $51,000, and they paid $800 in rates. That's when the latest valuation jumped to $3.6 million, and the rates grew 10 times to $8,000.
We would hope that we might get some kind of remission on our rates because it just seems ridiculous that, you know, we're going to pay this much money.
But the Te Kani whānau's land isn't the same as their neighbours' freehold land, which is up for sale. Theirs is Māori land title, which means it's almost impossible to sell, and they can't use the land as security on a bank loan. Some Māori leaders believe the law needs to change to allow Māori a lesser rate.
We should have change to the legislation which governs the Local Government Act, Rating Act,
and the Rating Powers Act to ensure that Māori are either exempt from that legislation or that we create a new law which ensures our rights are protected.
It's happening all around East Cape. The land values around this area have remained the same for years, but it took the sale of this one property for around $350,000 to increase the value of properties along this coast up to 35 times. Māori landowner Te Puna Tingaire fears if prices and rates continue, he'll be forced to move off his land.
What's happening now, I don't know what's going to happen. We need some help.
The District Council agrees they do need a different law.
The valuations do reflect market value, and if in fact you're comparing Maori land the same as general title land, well then that's not appropriate, because you can't do the same things with Maori land as you can with general land.
Loss of the land, of course, that's our greatest fear. Our greatest fear is the loss of the land.
Atareta Puananga says they'll be taking their plight to government and demanding change. Billy Jo Hohepa, One News.
The Defence Minister's dismissing plans by former Army cadets to sue over alleged bullying at the Waihuru Training School. 8 former cadets say they were threatened and beaten decades ago, and they want compensation from the government.
He arrived off a train in the late 1960s, but lasted at the cadet school less than 3 months.
You went into a bully boy place. That was all it was. It was kids looking after kids, like 16-year-olds with 2 stripes, 3 stripes, whatever. And as far as they were concerned, they were God.
He was 15 at the time. He claims he was a victim of repeated beatings from older boys, all because he spoke out about bullying. Even now, he's afraid to show his face.
One of the NCOs had his hands on my throat, and he was giving me a hard time. One of the NCOs said, "Let him go, you'll kill him." And I heard the NCO say, shit, I heard the NCO say, that's what I'm gonna bloody do.
The cadet's medical records show that he was threatened with being thrown off a train between stations. Other threats were made while he was in hospital recovering from a beating.
The former cadet is one of 8 who've engaged a lawyer to seek redress from the government. One of them has already lodged a $400,000 claim.
There are some people, however, who've suffered throughout their lives financial losses that they attribute to this treatment, and some of them want compensation for that.
But the government expects such action to fail and has offered cadets counselling rather than compensation.
I don't think that you can say to ordinary New Zealanders that everybody that was ever bullied in their life in any public institution such as a school would be entitled to compensation. There would be no end to that process.
But this cadet says his 3 months at cadet school put him on a path of alcoholism, broken relationships and violence.
If it's the only way I can get redress to anything that's happened to me and stop it happening to other people, well and good, I'll do it.
The legal advice I have is that such actions are unlikely to succeed given the passage of time that has elapsed since then.
Historic complaints about the treatment of cadets at Waihuru military camp have already sparked one inquiry completed last year. It found while bullying occurred, there was no culture of violence, something this former cadet disputes. Mark Torley, One News.
All right, Tony's along with sport a little later, and the Warriors are in the black at long last.
Yes, actually got 2 points, although scorn all the people like you, Wayne, who said they would win the wooden spoon. The crowds, though, are they turning up? We'll look at that a bit later on. Also tonight, some light relief. How a nasty stray pussycat invaded the pitch and took a chunk out of the ref.
There he comes, the black cat. And he's certainly on a mission. He's searching for his man. He's found him and he says, okay, he's the guy. I'll take his thumb.
I love it. We can report the thumb is okay. The pride, though, is not. And the same can be said for the Canes, who blew it last night in Canberra. And what a night of English football as the managers, look at them, they go toe-to-toe. And Liverpool might just go all the way in the FA Cup.
And this time he makes it count. Having squandered a couple of...
But coming up next, the long-lost diary, throwing new light on the early life of a famous New Zealand writer. No compromise in Nepal. Police open fire on protesters near the Royal Palace. And behold, the great malls of China, the building mania sweeping the world's biggest country.
The ones to watch.
And we like to look.
This week.
I got a feeling it's going to be a
There's a storm brewing in the dramatic final of Bad Girls.
Oh my God.
On Cold Case, a carbon copy murder decades apart.
She died exactly the way your wife did.
We'll keep you guessing to the very end.
Do you expect people to believe two women in your life end up dead at the bottom of the stairs and that's just chance?
It's show business or no business on Dragon's Den.
I am out.
Revelations, theories, transformations and plenty of love potion.
They're funny when they're all messed up on love juice.
In a Midsummer Night's Dream.
The eyes are the window to the soul.
The ones to watch.
And now and again we all need a good window cleaner.
Get the National Bank special cashback fixed interest rate period home loan and get cash back. Around $1,600 cash for a new $250,000 loan. More for larger loans. Call 0800 185 185 or visit any branch. Be quick, this offer can't last.
Timeless music, the best of Coast. 38 timeless tracks from artists you know and love. Featuring Elvis Presley, Dean Martin, Roy Orbison, The Beach Boys and many more. Timeless music, the best of Coast. Out now on a specially priced 2-CD set.
Whether it's long or short, pointy or scruffy, generously proportioned or almost non-existent. A dog's nose knows when something smells fresh. Pedigree Dog Roll is made with real meat, which will make your dog's nose, and the rest of them, very happy.
I want an immediate lift. For me, nothing beats Revitalift.
New Revitalift Double Lift. A tautening lifting gel with Protensium. A soothing anti-wrinkle cream with Pro-Retinol A. Double action technology for a spectacular result. New Revitalift Double Lift from L'Oréal Paris.
Bacterial complications from winter colds can be serious. A solution? Buckalin is behind the pharmacist's counter. Take Buckalin tablets now for up to 3 months protection. Ask your pharmacist how Buckalin can help protect from bacterial complications of colds this winter.
Number 1, shoes, up to 25% off school footwear. Premium leather school shoe, fully stitched sole, 25% off, only $29.95. $10 off these girls' styles, now only $19.95 a pair. Up to 25% off school footwear.
Number 1.
Are you stuck in a job you don't want to be in while your life passes you by? If you dream of the chance to be your own boss, act now. Greenacres Home Cleaning is offering a limited number of franchise opportunities in the Canterbury area. You'll enjoy a guaranteed weekly income and the security of being part of New Zealand's #1 franchise group. Don't waste another second. Call John Lane, Greenacres Home Cleaning Canterbury on 0800 Great Life.
To really recycle, give us all your plastic supermarket bags. Make sure they're clean and empty. Then put them in with your paper. Real recycling. You make the difference.
Lease an awesome HSV Club Sport from only $998 plus GST per month. Call Blackwall's HSV today and turn it on.
All we can show you today is their feet. But tomorrow we'll show you their faces. Dancing with the new stars. All will be revealed close up tomorrow at 7.
Police in Nepal have used live ammunition and tear gas to break up another huge demonstration in the Himalayan kingdom. Thousands of protesters marched into the capital, Kathmandu, in defiance of a curfew imposed by the king a day after he offered to restore democracy.
Bloodstained streets in the centre of the capital. A day after offering to give power back to his people, the king threatened once more to shoot them on sight. The security forces are using brutal tactics to keep the monarch on his throne. This young man was beaten over the head in a baton charge in what had been a peaceful protest.
I know you! Who are you? I know!
The demonstrators defied the curfew for the 3rd day running.
We're right in the heart of Kathmandu here. The royal palace is less than a mile away. But these police officers have decided that the protesters aren't coming any further than here.
For the past 2 days, crowds have been stopped at the fringes of the capital. So when they advanced on the centre, it was a moment of high tension. But even though the police tried to stop them, they were quickly brushed aside. And the small trickle of protesters soon became a flood. Minutes later, the main opposition parties rejected the King's offer of an interim administration. But the people had already spoken. They want him to relinquish all political power. So Nepal faces a violent stalemate, a monarch pitted against his people. Which side will give ground first?
Rival Palestinian factions have clashed in Gaza City in the worst internal fighting in months. Hundreds of angry Fatah supporters attacked the Palestinian Legislative Council offices, smashing windows and chanting in support of their party. Earlier, at least 20 people were injured as rival groups of students clashed. Relations between supporters of the Hamas-led Palestinian government and the Fatah party of President Mahmoud Abbas have worsened since Hamas came to power. Iraqis finally have a new Prime Minister after a 4-month political deadlock that took the country to the brink of civil war. Shiite politician Jawad al-Maliki will head Iraq's first full-term government since the US-led invasion 3 years ago.
Parliament met in a hot, airless room at the Convention Centre to elect top officials, notably the President, Jalal Talabani. He is a Kurd, the first non-Arab to head an Arab state. He immediately asked the nominee for Prime Minister, Jawad al-Maliki, to form a government. Maliki was sentenced to death by Saddam and lived in exile for years. After the war, he worked on the campaign to get rid of key members of Saddam's powerful Ba'ath Party. His first policy statement today was swift. We want to form a family that will not be based on sectarian or ethnic backgrounds. The U.S. ambassador welcomed today's developments and said there's much more work to be done.
We urge the formation of the cabinet as quickly as possible, comprised of competent ministers committed to building a better future for all Iraqis.
Maliki now has 30 days to do just that, or they'll have to start all over again.
She's a world-renowned novelist and short story writer, but a recent discovery at Janet Frame's childhood home in Awamaru casts new light on what appears to have been her first love, poetry.
It's old, torn, discoloured, but very precious.
Some builders found it beneath the floorboards.
The 10-year-old who wrote these well-ordered lists of her childhood poems would, in her adult life, go on to become one of our most celebrated writers.
She said her father brought home notebooks. How I would tremble and whisk them away to secret places and immediately set to work to rule my index for the poems. Captain Scott, Sand, A Longing, The Pine Trees, My Rainbow.
Janet Frame died 2 years ago. She published 21 books in her lifetime. Only one was a book of poetry. This diary lay under her Oamaru family home for 70 years. Finally discovered, coincidentally, at the same time a posthumous publication of her poetry was due.
The fact that it's turned up after so many years is, well, almost miraculous.
And it really just confirmed that, as she always said, poetry is my first love.
It seemed almost too good to be true. It was the last thing I expected to come out from under the house, and just to hold it in my hands and think, yes, this could be the real thing.
The race is now on to track down copies of Janet Frame's early poems. It's literary archaeology, and one suspects these Janet Frame fans will enjoy every minute of it. Sonia Wilson, One News.
The Greens have confirmed 4 candidates to replace the late Rod Donald as party co-leader. Cannabis law reform activist Nandor Tanchos is the only MP standing. His rivals are the Greens election campaign manager Russell Norman, former List MP Mike Ward and List candidate David Clendon. The new co-leader will be elected in June. And while Green MPs are occupied with the leadership contest, their colleagues from other parties are also keeping busy while Parliament is in recess. Some are hard at work in their electorates, but more than 25 are on trips overseas.
On a whirlwind trip to the Big Apple, Don Brash didn't need to save up for it. The leader of the opposition gets one tour of duty paid for every year. He says it's to make contacts for when he makes it into government, not to have fun.
No, I'm away only 12 days. I visit Washington, New York, London, Beijing and Singapore. It's no holiday.
Back here, parliamentary security guards are looking positively bored. It's recess. The halls are deserted and the debating chamber deathly quiet. Some politicians are out in their electorates, but this recess, more than 25 are overseas.
Mr. Secretary, very good to see you.
Phil Goff was all smiles meeting US Defence Secretary Donald Rumsfeld. And here's Winston Peters this week in Russia. He's spending 2 weeks travelling Europe. Phil Goff, along with Don Brash and his entourage, are in the United States. Margaret Wilson and 4 MPs are in Brussels and Turkey. Harry Duynhoven in Qatar. Mark Burton in Uganda. Jim Sutton in Asia. Jim Anderton and Chris Carter in Australia. Nanaia Mahuta in Rarotonga. And 10 MPs on the parliamentary rugby team in France.
We've had nothing short of the runaround trying to find out how much this has all cost. Parliamentary Services referred us to Ministerial Services, who sent us to the Speaker's office, who then sent us to the Prime Minister's office, who of course sent us back to where we started. So we've done some sums of our own.
A travel agent estimates the cost of airfares alone exceeding $100,000. That's economy class, and then there's accommodation. The parliamentary rugby team pay for their own fares. With or without MPs, the show must go on.
They start sitting from 2 o'clock, and on Tuesday and Wednesday they finish at 10 o'clock at night.
Tours around Parliament are full, but no one seems to mind the famous faces are absent.
Maybe that's a good thing.
I've seen them all on the telly. I know what they look like, what they're up to.
If what they're up to happens to be at a Hawke's Bay vineyard, politicians say they've always got the country's best interests in mind. Hannah Hodson, One News.
Still to come, China embraces consumerism as shopping malls enter a whole new dimension. Our top children's writers face their toughest critics for the ultimate prize. And plenty of pillows, but no one sleeping. Thousands batter up for a record attempt.
Passchendaele, our greatest military disaster to date.
We've come all the way over here because you can't come home.
Robin Malcolm retraces the history of a war that would claim her great-uncle's life. Our Lost War, 8:35 Monday on One.
Grab your future in the new Kia Cerato. Kia, the power to surprise.
Today we're looking at this impressive villa inspired by traditional country living but built in Albany by Signature Homes.
Our designer wanted to have a Remuera traditional sort of home, and I wanted a Cape Cod, and this is the meld that we came up with. We wanted to put together a classic style with a modern twist. The weatherboards we've used are the James Hardie linear board. It looks very similar to the traditional New Zealand weatherboard. And we had a lot of products available to us that they probably didn't have in the old days, and they've been a lot more durable.
This is a nice touch, and it's a great example of how a James Hardie product like Hardie Group can be used.
We put it behind the bed and in the bathrooms and in the butler's pantry for that traditional style. We had a lot of fun putting it together, and it looks fantastic.
Visit our website for more details on the Signature Home and other inspiring designs created using James Hardie products.
From Sunday through to Anzac Day, the hot tickets are at Briscoe's with 20 to 50% off everything. There's 50% off a huge range of coffee mugs. Save over 50% off these 100% cotton bath sheets. There's a hot 30% off all oil heaters, and all duvet covers have 40% off. So swing on in for 20 to 50% off everything. And don't forget, we're open from 1 to 9 p.m. on Anzac Day.
Whether it's long or short,
pointy or scruffy. A dog's nose knows when something smells fresh. Pedigree dog roll is made with real meat, which will make your dog's nose very happy.
You must remember this.
War Birds, a concert that takes you back to the songs of Ella, Vera, the Andrews Sisters, Judy Garland and more. War Birds. Book now.
Well, look, no, it depends on what Han Sang's doing here. No, we need to...
If the relationship with your bank feels a little like an arranged marriage, perhaps all you need is a rewarding little flirtation on the side. A relationship based purely on tangible rewards, with no fees or strings attached. And available 24 hours a day. Best of all, you wouldn't have that messy breakup with your ordinary bank. No strings, no fees, just high interest. Click on Rabo Plus, your significant other bank.
In England, I was shocked by the crap that we fed our kids. I wouldn't feed that to my dog. I would feed it to my dog.
So Jamie's travelling to the poorest part of Italy to see what's on the school canteen menu.
It smells fantastic in here. Pasta and olive oil here have to be organic, and that's law. Interesting. You're not allowed to fry anything in schools.
Jamie's Great Italian Escape, Monday on 1.
Looking at our top stories tonight, hundreds of Chinese are fleeing the Solomon Islands amid fears children may have died in fires during rioting in the capital, Honiara. Despite massive security, police are worried there could be more trouble when Parliament sits tomorrow. More Kiwi troops left for the Solomons today. And the building industry is cracking down on shoddy construction work. Starting next year, builders will be licensed by a special assessment board. The licences will be voluntary to begin with, but will be made compulsory by 2011. The country's top children's writers are awaiting a decision on who's produced the best book of the year. 20 finalists will find out the winner next month after their work's been weighed up by some fairly picky judges.
Where's the gold? Screeched the green parrot.
Last-minute research for an important decision.
The gold! Here's the gold!
The award for New Zealand's favourite children's book lies in the hands of kids authors' toughest critics.
You will choose the one book that you think is the best.
This year, almost 40,000 school children are expected to choose from 20 finalists selected by judges. It's a responsibility they're taking very seriously.
I was looking in the books for descriptive writings and about facts, and it inspires me to do stuff. I think it's pretty important to widen our imagination.
It's a good focus for them to reconnect to books, and by giving them the vote, it gives them a chance to really think about it too and take it to heart.
It's a tough choice with the likes of Margaret Mahi and Joy Cowley in the running. For the authors themselves, getting the nod from those they write for is the best possible incentive.
It encourages them to keep writing, I should think, and it means for them, I guess, that they're on the right mark. You know, they're doing the right thing and to go on and do some more books.
And fortunately for authors, there's still an appetite for the good old-fashioned book.
Reading a book is much better than staying on a computer or PlayStation all day.
Voting closes at the beginning of next month and the winner will be announced on the 17th of May. Sasha McNeil, One News.
Some massive new monuments are popping up in the world's biggest nation, not to Chairman Mao, but to consumerism. Communist China's on a mall building spree, providing startling evidence of its growing prosperity.
Behold the great malls of China. They are the newest icons of this country's breakneck economic growth. The golden resources, 3 football fields long. The grand view, 500,000 shoppers on a good day. Malls so large you can easily get lost without a map, or even with one.
I don't know either.
Food halls big enough to provide their own entertainment. Hollywood-caliber theaters, an indoor beach for toddlers on one floor, an ice rink for the whole family on another. The Yan family moved to the U.S. 2 years ago, back home for a visit. Even they're amazed.
I'm really shocked. It is. And so many stores.
In fact, these mammoth malls here have American companies drooling. Just the sort of retail space they've been hoping for as they try to crack the huge and increasingly prosperous Chinese market. Of course, most Chinese still can't afford much of what's on sale here, but big city incomes are rising. And developers say the spending will come, especially if people are enjoying themselves. In fact, the latest addition to Mall Mania here is more than just a place to shop. Part Vegas, part Disneyland. The South China Mall calls itself an entire lifestyle experience. Leisurely gondola rides on a mile-long canal, theme park thrill rides. 20 million people live within a 1-hour ride of this mall, which, when complete, will be the world's biggest. Its owners have made a $300 million bet, also right out of America. If you build it, they will come.
Imagine how much time you would spend in a shopping centre like that.
Yes, I can only imagine. Right, sport. Let's talk about sport. There was no lack of action at the motor racing,
we loved it. 103,000 people out there over the weekend. 40,000 fans will look at all the thrills and spills from Pukekohe shortly. But first tonight, all hail the king with Michael Schumacher back to his blistering best, and he has a new record to prove it. The 7-time champ has now overtaken the Great Ayrton Senna with the most pole positions in Formula One. This number 66 at the San Marino Grand Prix. So too, British fans will be very happy as well. Jenson Button continuing his impressive form. He alongside Michael Schumacher on the front row. Championship leader Fernando Alonso is back in 5th. All right, stick around. All your Sunday sport to come, including yesterday it was an out-of-control Porsche. Today at Big V8 as chaos reigns at Puke. Also, the Warriors move off bottom, but does anyone care as the fans stay away en masse? And the downright bizarre as 2 football managers nearly come to blows, and the feisty feline that took on the ref and won.
He's a man with a passion for food and an appetite for life.
I know I can rely on you.
She's a woman with an insatiable hunger for power.
You know, he milks you for everything you've got, and he pays you in charm and blarney.
He pays me good money.
Joe.
Ella Macbeth is the ultimate shrewd and scheming Shakespeare sister.
You do this, and we win everything.
Wicked sinful pleasure. Macbeth, tonight on One.
Get the National Bank special cashback fixed interest rate period home loan and get cash back. Around $1,600 cash for a new $250,000 loan. More for larger loans. Call 0800 185 185 or visit any branch. Be quick, this offer can't last.
Hurry into Warehouse Stationery's technology sale and get 5 days of incredible deals. Like this PC package with CD writer and DVD player, Epson multifunction and USB cable for only $749. This HP multifunction is only $189. Save $60. And this Norton Internet Security software, $89. Save over $40. Check out these savings and more at the Technology 5-day sale. Only at Warehouse Stationery.
Everything's bigger at Mitre 10 Mega except the everyday low prices. Like Rossini laundry baskets for $6.86 each. This Pullman petrol chainsaw for $248. This Chubb fire extinguisher for $27.87 and get 5 Results Energy Saver lamps for $10. So don't wait for a sale. We give you the lowest prices every day. Find a lower price and we'll beat it by 10%. Mitre 10 Mega. Best range, lowest prices, end of story.
Big is good. The very best of Roy Orbison. All of Roy's biggest hits on one album. Celebrate his 70th anniversary. The very best of Roy Orbison.
Yeah, this is the life, huh? There's nothing like lying on a bed of real Italian spaghetti, eh?
Yeah, I used to fantasize about being a lasagna, but no, you're right. I feel like I've gone to heaven.
With a Hopscotch loan, you'll never have to make payments in December or January. For a stress-free Christmas and summer, move your current debts to one Hopscotch loan. Call 0800 99 44 99 or visit myhopscotch.co.nz.
Spice up your winter with our premium new season collection. Exclusive to household linens. Bed linen that feels as good as it looks. In store now.
Some people have condensation problems. Some people don't. quiet, economical, unobtrusive. If you've got better things to do with your day, it's time to give us a call. Domestic Ventilation Systems, 0800 387 387.
Unlimited internet access for only $9.95 a month. No contract, no connection fee, unlimited access for $9.95 with no strings. Kiwi Online. Call free on 0800 438 565 for the best internet deal around. Kiwi Online.
To be a top-class competitor, you need to have...
I'll tell you. We need a full-length mirror. That's what we need, pal.
A team of true professionals.
Ah, it's a beautiful thing.
On a game of two halves, Monday on 1.
On the programme Monday, the latest snapshot of the state of investor confidence, news from the rural sector, and we bring you a slice of Kiwi cafe culture in London. Join me 6:30 Monday morning for ASB Business.
And then on breakfast, we'll get you live to Gallipoli ahead of Anzac commemorations there.
Also on Monday, why we need an Australia week here in New Zealand. Plus, a look at travel options when it comes to Antarctica. We'll see you Monday morning for breakfast.
Welcome back. It's been another incident-packed day at Pukekohe with spectacular crashes, a broken leg and chaos on the track. But that is why the punters, they love their V8s, the potential of crashes and plenty of them.
It was chaos at Pukekohe for the second day running.
This will be the nervous spot round the track because if there's a concertina, which there is, big trouble in the middle of the pack. Huge contact there.
And that would be the tone of the day. John Bow making a spectacular exit.
Did the big wall of death climb down the outside, and he'll have massive damage on the left-hand corner of that car.
His race over and the meet delayed, with the photographer suffering a broken leg when he was caught up in the high-speed crash. The safety barriers needed repairing, but the Ford veteran making his 200th championship round start this weekend, escaping unhurt.
Mate, I'm a bit like James Bond. I'm shaken, not stirred.
The race reduced to 33 laps as the carnage continued.
Oh, trouble at the hairpin. Right, oh, that's Courtney and Murphy getting together down there.
At least there was something for Kiwi fans to celebrate, with Jason Richards second behind Garth Tander in race 2.
And it goes to the tall HSV man, Garth Tander.
On to race 3, and the tension began to show. Young gun Will Davison crashing out of the race.
Just to expand on...
And Max Wilson hanging on by a thread.
Feels like a wheel is going to be off or something.
But driving the race of his life was 24-year-old Mark Winterbottom taking on Craig Lowndes, the veteran leaving it to the last moment to overtake the youngster.
He's up on the outside for turn 6. They'll go side by side. Can Lowndes get the job done? Yes is the answer.
A milestone for Scaife, holding on for his first ever race win at Pukekohe.
Scaife wins in New Zealand.
We've never been able to knock Murph off. You know, we've had plenty of races with Greg, and as you said, we've had some wins, but this one to win the whole round is fantastic.
Holden's domination at Pukekohe continues. Jenny Maycoffin, One News.
Nice stuff to rugby now. They had all the possession, a bucket load of opportunities, and they were up against a side without two major stars. But the Hurricanes have blown a great chance to beat the Brumbies and move up the Super 14 ladder after last night's 5-point loss in Canberra.
A win would have put them in range of a home semi-final. The bonus point in last night's 21-16 loss, little consolation for the Hurricanes.
It would have been really good. Winning this game sort of, would have made it easier on us. But I guess we made it harder on ourselves today by not winning.
The Hurricanes were always chasing the game after conceding 2 first-half tries. Their only try coming just 10 minutes from full time.
The little kick in behind the line. What about the bounce?
The successful conversion made it 18-16 with minutes to play, but the Brumbies extended their lead with a penalty not long after, and with just seconds left on the clock, the Hurricanes had one last chance.
Here we go with Goppert, the playmaker. Allison, they put it down.
The Brumbies' victory has seen them consolidate 4th spot and are now just 2 points behind the Hurricanes. In Durban, the Blues needed to win to stay in semi-final contention, and they made the perfect start.
Side here, Ali Williams has it, and he's galloping to the line, gives the pass. Dougie Howlett starts the match in dramatic fashion for the Blues.
But it was all Sharks for the rest of the half as they replied with 3 tries and went to the break 20 points to 5 up. The Blues threatened a revival early in the second half.
Chances here. Tuitavaki is through for the try.
But once again, the Sharks bounced back, scoring 2 more tries, their last right on full time, for a 32-15 win. Any hopes the Blues had of making the semi-finals have gone. Meanwhile, the Bulls have kept their playoff hopes alive with a 46-17 thrashing of the Cats in Pretoria. The 6 tries to 2 win has moved them to 5th on the table, just 4 points adrift of the top 4. Katie Bayliss, One News.
So let's check out the table. The Crusaders lead despite that shock draw against the Force, but the Canes missed a great chance to move up the ladder and draw level with the Waratahs. The Chiefs, the only other Kiwi team that can make the playoffs. And we thought we'd show you a very special moment from the Cats versus the Bulls. Check out the feisty feline.
There he comes, the Black Cat. And he's certainly on a mission. He's searching for his man. He's found him and he says, okay, he's the guy. I'll take his thumb. Yeah. Probably one of the
nasty, love it, the little stray cat. Now we move on to Rugby League, and have the fans lost the faith in the Warriors? The official crowd figure at Ericsson Stadium last night was 8,000, but it looked to be a lot less. At least, though, the Warriors managed to give those that did turn up something to cheer about. A win at home and a move off the bottom of the NRL ladder after a big win over the Rabbitohs, 46 points to 14.
If the Warriors were ever going to shake off their home ground hoodoo, the senior players had to stand up.
Hole, easy try. Wiki looking for 2 tries. Look out, here I come, baby. I am unstoppable.
In a game where there is a bit of pressure on the team, and you know it's a game that we really need to win. They're the guys you want to lead from the front. They did that tonight, so yeah, I was wrapped from it.
The Warriors threatened a cricket score with 3 converted tries in just 25 minutes.
It's a foot race. Polglaze versus Martin. It's no contest.
The Bunnies hit back, but with another Warriors try before the break, the match was as good as over.
Try. See you later, South Sydney. Look at this. Brent Webb will go all the way.
Although this wouldn't be a Warriors match without a predictable opposition fight back. George Gattis erased the nerves before something special from the captain.
He got there, or did he? Yes! How did he get there? Stephen Price scores his first ever try for the Warriors.
Although not everyone was surprised he scored.
Your mum sent a text to me this morning and she felt that today was the day to score a try, so mothers know best, I reckon, and she had a fair idea.
The Warriors scoring 7 tries in the 46-14 rout, moving up 1 place to 14th on the NRL points table. Craig Stanaway, One News.
Good stuff. Well, after some indifferent results, the New Zealand men's hockey team has saved its best for last to make the final of the World Cup qualifying tournament in China. And check this out, for a bizarre first goal, shot goes in and it's deflected, then off the referee, then comes the diving save before the goal is scored. England were not amused, but it stood and set the Black Sticks on their way to a 3-1 victory. The Kiwis will now meet Korea in tonight's final. And now to some shot making to warm the hearts of all budding golfers and prove that miracles on course do happen. Here is contender number 1, the event, the Houston Open. The golfer Chris Couch. The result is good as you will get.
Swish. Cut note round.
Swish indeed. Nicely done. And this next effort on the European Tour wasn't bad either. Marcus Breyer judging the length and spin to perfection. Kiwi Mahal Pearce is also in good shape. 2 shots off the pace after 3 rounds of the Asian Open. One of the real survivors of English football has announced his retirement with a knee injury getting the better of Alan Shearer. And that wasn't the only big news overnight, with a couple of managers not seeing eye to eye and a massive result in the FA Cup.
They've met 10 times in the last 2 years, so you might think Chelsea against Liverpool would be getting a bit dull. Not on this evidence. Didier Drogba should have put Chelsea ahead.
And Drogba's controlled it, and Drogba has missed.
If that was bad, what followed for the Blues was even worse.
Liverpool strike first in this FA Cup semi-final.
It wasn't exactly a thunderbolt from John Arna-Riza, but when the wall crumbles as neatly as Chelsea's did, that hardly matters. Things didn't improve for them after the break. John Terry thought he had scored, but the referee thought otherwise. And Liverpool capitalised in quite stunning fashion.
And this time he makes it count.
Luis Garcia seemed to have settled things, but finally Chelsea was stirred into life and Drogba made the most of some defensive dithering.
And there is hope for Chelsea.
Suddenly, they were back in it. All they needed was one final chance. And 4 minutes into injury time, Joe Cole blew it. So no League Cup double for Chelsea, and on this Liverpool display, they can have few complaints. Earlier, a £10 million payday was at stake in the North London derby. 4th place Spurs and 5th place Arsenal effectively meeting for a place in next season's Champions League. Robbie Keane scoring for Spurs while an Arsenal player was down injured, adding extra spice to an already intense affair.
And Jens Lehmann has come out and is remonstrating with Edgar Davids out of your picture. You see it now.
You can see Davids and Perez are still continuing their argument, and now the two managers are as well.
Well, this game has exploded.
It took yet another remarkable goal from Thierry Henry to even things up. 1-1 it finished. Arsenal now have to win the Champions League if they're to play in it next season. Craig Stanaway, One News.
I love it, the manager's feisty. Now finally tonight, a story of perseverance and determination. 12 months ago, Todd Madden weighed a lot, 145 kgs to be precise. Now Todd wasn't that happy with that. In fact, he set himself a challenge: get rid of the flab and take on a true sporting challenge. That is 2.8 kilometres, the King of the Bay's ocean swim against some of the biggest names in the sport.
They came in numbers. One determined dog, more than a few famous faces.
What happens if Rosie the dog beats you?
I'll probably keep on swimming and pretend I didn't even enter the race.
And in amongst the highly tuned athletes and Commonwealth Games medalists, this man, his medal the result of 100% dedication.
This is sort of the culmination of a whole year's effort, basically.
And a massive effort it was, shedding close to half his body weight in preparation for today's race.
Total of 56 kgs as of this morning, so yeah, we're pretty over the moon about that.
That doesn't seem to be an issue for Rosie the dog, who's fast becoming a sporting celebrity.
After a good session of carbo loading like that, she'll be, full of beans. Just under 1,000 swimmers took to the water this morning, and due to the choppy conditions, times were slightly slower than last year.
And for the winner of the men's event, Hayden Woolley, this wasn't just about victory, but about bragging rights.
She outspeeds some Olympians.
Among them, gold medalist Moss Burmester, who came in second.
Stuff at the time, I was like, this would be a good idea, but I struggled a little bit today.
Another of our national reps, Helen Norfolk, took out the women's.
I think the race was 2.8, and I'm sure I swam about 3.8 because I was just swimming everywhere.
And she wasn't alone. But then challenges like these aren't meant to be easy, especially when you opt to brave the conditions in a pair of Speedos. Tony Street, One News.
See, I say congratulations to Todd for losing all the kgs, but they are wrong. Speedos, no.
I don't know what to say. You wouldn't catch me wearing a pair, that's for sure. It would not be a
and
good
that
look.
is good news for everyone who ever goes to a beach wets.
Most definitely. Thank you, Tony. After the break, Brendan's here with more rain and the outlook for Anzac Day. Plus Invercargill's big pyjama party with its violent version of pillow talk.
Tonight, bullying the bully, Christchurch father Darryl Falcon was told his daughter was being bullied, so he did something about it. He confronted the boy outside the school gates. That confrontation would land Darryl in trouble with the police for trying to protect Amanda.
He just grabbed his book and hit me across my face with it.
A classroom confrontation. And 11-year-old Amanda Falcon says she was bullied by an 11-year-old boy.
That's Sunday, 7:30, tonight on One.